Good evening, Fright fans, and welcome to the Fright of Fandom for October. I am, as always, your ghost with the most, Zach, otherwise known as Great Zamino. I get to join all of you guys and run this super awesome flight because I love scary stuff. My pronouns are he, him, and I am joined by a fantastic cast this fine evening for our first flight set in the world of Control, the Dollhouse. So once again, I'm joined by a fantastic cast. David, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hey there, everybody. David here. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a graphic designer, an illustrator, and a game designer. You can check out all my game stuff over at dbb-8.itch.io. And I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at dbrunel-brutman.
Awesome. Now, moving down the overlay, as it were, Marissa, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marissa, she, her pronouns, also known as Critical Kitten, with various punctuation here and there on the internet. And I am delighted to be here with Frights of Fandom.
Excellent. And then moving over to the right-hand side of the overlay, Hopper, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey there, that's me. I'm Hopper. I use they, them pronouns, and I can be found in, on, and around the interwebs at Fail Deadly. That is with a 3 instead of an E, because, as always, I'm a bad person.
And finally, last but most certainly not least, Puja, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I am Puja. You can find me on Twitter at Puja and tonight in the chat and on Instagram at Pujabberwocky. And my pronouns are she, her.
So, thank you everybody for your fine introductions. I think that this flight deserves a bit of preamble, just because this is a very unique system that we are using for a very unique flight of fandom. It is my pleasure to say that we are doing this flight fandom using the rule system of Robin D. Laws and Pelgrane Press that some of you may be aware of, GUMSHOE, which is a really super neat mechanically different system from typically what you are used to. For instance, what is great about GUMSHOE is that rather than have a possibility to fail investigative roles, GUMSHOE assumes that you guys are incredibly competent and very well accomplished at your jobs. And why wouldn't you be? You're agents, operatives, researchers for the Federal Bureau of Control, headquartered at the oldest house in New York City. All of you represent some of the finest minds in the studies of paranatural and supernatural phenomena. All of you being underneath the wise and very steady direction of director Zachariah Trench. So, as we kind of bear this in mind going forward, I need to put on a little bit of music as we see a day in the life of the agents of the Federal Bureau of Control. So, as we open, our camera zooms in to one of the many floors and sectors of the oldest house, a brutalist building that seems to be much larger and much more mysterious on the inside than it would be on the outside to any casual observer. But everybody in this building is not a casual observer. All of you are agents, directives, operatives, hailing from a great number of alphabet agencies, which over the years have essentially been kind of giving the best members of their talent pool over inevitably to the Federal Bureau of Control. What the Federal Bureau of Control does, a lot of these agencies have no idea. But for all of you who work there, you know for a fact that your responsibilities include the securing, containment, and protection of paranatural phenomena and objects that are linked to it. Those objects often being called objects of power, as well as altered items, which are often the results of what are called altered world events, where an incursion into our reality results in some sort of phenomena touching an object or an otherwise nondescript item of what would apparently be no significant importance. Some of the effects of these altered worlds events are fairly nondescript, fairly easily contained, but others can be catastrophic. And so as we kind of have our understanding of this building, the camera kind of sets in a middle shot as all of these incredibly capable office workers are going about their day, all dressed smartly for the most part, and then suddenly emerging straight onto this shot in gigantic block letters, all capitals, control, and underneath it, the Dollhouse. And as we travel around the oldest house, I wonder where the camera alights on. Who would like to start first?
I got one.
Okay. So, as the camera begins to travel up the sector elevator of the oldest house, where does the elevator ding and open to, Dr. Katz?
The research sector. So we emerge from the elevator. I think take a little bit of a roundabout route through the research sector atrium, and these big masses of concrete that sort of surround this hall, and up and off into a side corridor, snake down a few past various researchers walking around in lab coats, and we end up in I think fairly nondescript lab. There is a table, there's computers and whiteboards around the sides of the lab. I think this is one of those ones that maybe has like some glass windows opening onto the hallway, so you can see what's going on. And if you peek through those glass windows, you see at this central lab table Katz, who is a fairly young man with this mop of wavy brown hair, which he clearly pays absolutely no attention to, and a lab coat over a t-shirt and jeans. The t-shirt says, there are 10 kinds of people, those who understand binary and those who don't. And he has got some big black tinted goggles and some heavy duty lab gloves on, as he brings the electrified contacts of two cables together on either end of this little chunk of maybe obsidian. Unclear exactly what this rock is. When the either side of the contacts touch it in its little sort of pedestal in the middle of this lab table, this current, this bright electric sort of bolt of plasma begins to flow through it. And we see like objects in the room start to levitate. And then there is a big burst of energy from the little rock. Katz brings back his face blackened. The other researchers in the room are coughing as they wave smoke away from their faces. And Katz brings up the goggles, picks up a clipboard, and says, "Nope, still intact."
And over your shoulder, I think there is a poster that says, "Is that a Erlenmeyer flask or an altered item?" ? And the Erlenmeyer flask has this anthropomorphized face on it that is sticking its tongue out and waving out from the poster. And underneath it, next to the crest for the Federal Bureau of Control, is a warning kind of PSA style text that says, "Do not take lab equipment outside of the building." So I have to ask, this kind of superheating or this work on this plasma, is this considered a success? Or, well, obviously it sounds like it wasn't a success, but how kind of typical and de rigueur is this for you?
I would say fairly typical. This is Katz in his full comfort zone, taking an exotic piece of matter that nobody understands into the lab and trying to reduce it to its component pieces so that he can figure out where the heck this thing came from, as he is a forensic geologist for the FBC. So this was an item that he and his colleagues retrieved in the field, and he is currently trying to bust it apart and learn what it might tell us about the location that it came from.
Excellent. And, just for the sake of kind of world building here, where was this sample procured from?
I am going to say, let's say this was outside the oldest house. This, I think. Okay, here's what I got. This was discovered by field agents after a report came in of a suburban refrigerator on the fritz, and agents were dispatched to the scene and discovered this little chunk of obsidian lodged in the ice maker.
Oh, wow. Okay. Excellent. All right. Okay. Noted. Thank you. I think that the kind of this chunk of obsidian, it's exhibiting some very strange properties, but you cannot help but divert your attention from this very keen interest in this test specimen when you hear over your shoulder one of your fellow researchers, Tom Gauguin, is kind of saying, "Hey, psst, look, Darling's up and working on it again." And he points over your shoulder, and just out one of the entryways, or kind of through the observation window of this laboratory, you see Dr. Casper Darling appearing to kind of fit somebody with a bit of kind of machinery and affixing it to who looks like a ranger that is outfitted to go on an expedition. Meanwhile, one of his assistants is taking notes with a clipboard, making observations with a pen, while at the same time, where necessary, kind of stepping in and also kind of adjusting this harness to which this machine is fixed. And Tom kind of looks over your shoulder and says, "Hey, he's calling it the HRA."
Well, he's always coming up with names for things that don't make any kind of sense.
It's a resonance amplifier something. I don't know. I don't know what the H stands for, but it's kind of the most serious I've seen him in a long time. And he's just kind of, again, observing while also kind of sipping a cup of coffee.
Well, better that poor sucker than me.
You said it. And Tom goes back to his workstation. And I think that at around that point, that ranger is kind of, while he is being outfitted, somebody seems to come up, and you kind of recognize somebody who represents a kind of a gopher for the executive sector, kinds of approaches Dr. Darling, has a very brief conversation that you cannot really make out, from where you're sitting. He appears to kind of look almost distractedly up from his work, look through the window, makes eye contact with you, locates you, and points you out to that person. And this executive sector worker comes along the corner. She's dressed very smartly, and she says, "Hi, are you Dr. Katz?"
That's me.
At which point she reaches her hand and says, "Hi, I'm Emily from the executive sector. I actually have a priority 1 dispatch for you. Can you come with me?"
Yeah, sure thing.
And she says, "Great. We're just going to head back to the elevator. We're going to head up to the executive sector. Apparently, Director Trench wanted to speak to you."
Okay. Are you sure about that? Me?
He asked for you by name.
All right. Hey, Tom, could you put the dampeners back on?
And Tom says, "Yeah, no sweat," and begins kind of undertaking that next step, seemingly to move a pictographic icon display on a separate kind of laboratory console. So,
and if it starts vibrating more than 15 milliamps, then you get out of there, okay? Just bail, all right? Okay, good. I'll get back to you.
No change in expression.
And I'm like, following Emily down the hall.
Yeah, no change in expression yet. Yeah, all right. And then the camera pans over your shoulder and follows down the hall past the synchronicity lab to another individual in the research sector. Dr. Bancroft, if you would like to tell us who we see.
Yeah, so the camera pans over to the Astral Exhibition area of the research sector, which is a team within the parapsychology division of the sector, quite separate from where Dr. Katz is. We see the camera kind of skim over what looks like a topographical map of almost what you would call like 4-dimensional like structure or map of something. There's like ridges, topography. It looks 3 dimensions, but you get the sense that like there's something else in this model that if you knew how to engage with it, you could glean some insight from it. Basically, some bits are hung from the ceiling. It's quite a large model to try to illustrate broadly what the astral plane looks like. The Astral Exhibition team is involved in exclusively studies of the astral plane, what we know about it, and how we gather intelligence and information from it. The astral plane, of course, being where the board is from. Or at least where we think they are. So the camera kind of pans over this model. You see on the wall, there are various images and actually videos projected onto the walls that are playing in loops, little clips, from first person perspective. Clearly they were taken from the mind of someone who had been in the astral plane. They're little bits of intelligence from various pieces, the quarry, the Black Rock quarry, various other places within within the astral plane. It looks very ghostly white. It's different in every video. But nonetheless, the camera pans past this to a room where there are a lot of scientists around what looks like a person in a chair. And they've got a lot of electrical nodes attached to their head. Their eyes are closed, and broadcast almost like a movie screen is projected on an active, almost like live stream view of an astronaut in the astral plane. There are some scientists who are monitoring vitals and cross-checking things on computers. There are some who are, scribbling notes furiously as they witness what this astronaut is witnessing. But you see, as the camera pans around the room, that clearly there is someone in charge here. And that woman is Dr. Vivian Bancroft, a woman with shoulder-length, wine-dark hair, glasses, and deep blue eyes. She has a very prim demeanor. She carries herself with the air of someone who maybe had a kind of well-mannered upbringing. She has very tight posture, kind of like a dancer or someone who is directing traffic almost. And you get the impression that that's exactly what she's doing here. She has an air of authority. She stops by a group of scientists who are monitoring the astronauts' vitals and has a quick colloquy with them and discusses, basically instructs them to move one of the nodes on the person in question. She then kind of goes over to the other side of the room where people are adjusting the video feeds and increasing the saturation of the image. And she points at the image, clearly instructing them to enhance it or to zoom in on a particular aspect of the footage. And she is, she seems, everything is run as a very tight ship here. But clearly, as she's doing this, suddenly one of the scientists exclaims, and there's something on the horizon in the astral plane. You can't quite tell what it is, but it is this sort of amorphous blob. It almost looks like what you would think a glitch in the Matrix would look like, just spiking and shifting and changing. And instantly you can tell, as this astronaut sees this on the horizon, they turn around and the feed is, no longer looking at anything important in the astral plane, but this astronaut is just running as this astral spike is getting closer. And Vivian takes immediate charge. She starts pointing at how to dislodge the various equipment that's keeping this astronaut focused and projecting in a way that allows them to project into the astral plane, and very quickly and efficiently is trying to extract this astronaut before the astral spike catches up to them. She realizes, however, that she's missing something. She's missing a clear exit item that normally she would have on her, but for some reason doesn't. So she quickly moves to her office. And as you enter her office and follow her while she's rummaging through her desk to grab this item, you see on the wall there are 2 diplomas. She has 2 doctorates, one in philosophy, one in physics, respectively from the University of Oxford and from New York University. And you see too on her desk, there is a face down picture. We can't tell who's in the picture, but she clearly had this picture on her desk, and it looks pretty recent. You can see around the picture that there's dust that's accumulated. That picture's been there for a little bit. So it's clear that she only recently put this picture face down on her desk. But we see her grab the item in question and rush back over to the team, which is, doing its best to extract this astronaut as quickly as possible. And I think they managed to do it, everyone breathing a huge sigh of relief as the astronaut breathes deeply and comes back to themselves, blinking their eyes in the present.
And as you have accomplished this great thing, there is somebody from the executive sector looking on with very clear patience and kind of reverence for this this act that's going on, not wanting to interrupt this very kind of critical juncture in your research. A young man by the name of Alan is just kind of like looking on and says, Dr. Bancroft, when you have a moment, could we speak very quickly?
Excuse me, who are you?
Hi, I'm sorry, I was just coming back to myself. I'm Alan Barnett. Pleasure to meet you. I am a bit of a gopher for the executive sector. I have been asked to to send for you by Director Trench.
Does now look like a particularly good time?
Well,
She gestures.
when the director asks, I answer, and when Director Trench says jump, I ask how high.
I see, and that means that when Director Trench tells any of us to jump, that we should also say how high, despite what may be happening in our own departments.
Well, yes, that you exactly.
Classic. You know, I think that if things were a little more decentralized around here, we'd get better results. If you just leave me to do my work, then I can produce the results that Director Trench wants. Presumably, that's why he has me in charge of this division. Otherwise, it would be someone else. So does Director Trench want me in his office, or does he want me here making sure this astronaut is okay after having been just removed from the astral plane?
Well, right now, he wants you in his office. And yeah, again, Alan just barely missing a beat, just kind of like, in the office.
Great. Love that for this entire institution. Okay, and she points to, several of her other underlings who have crowded around the astronaut coming back to themselves. Okay, you Carrie, you're in charge of this particular exit. You know the protocol, but if you don't, you buzz me immediately, and I don't care what Director Trench has to say to me. I'm coming back down here, and I'm going to make sure that this extraction goes without any problem and that the reacclimation process is fine. Do you understand? Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
All of them just kind of like a little bit befuddled and they just all nod in the affirmative. I think Carrie obviously kind of bringing a little bit more gravitas and kind of like earnestness to this. Yes, understood.
Swell. All right, Alan, you said your name was? Take me where you must, but make it quick.
And of course, Alan nods and then says, I've heard that good delegation is really key to excellent management. And that, I thought, went very well. And he's just saying this while walking towards the sector elevator with you.
And you very clearly hear her take a deep inhalation of breath as she is about to release a tirade about why it's important for leaders of teams to maintain control over those teams and to be still involved in the minutia of everyday activities. And presumably this is what Alan has to hear for the entire elevator up to Director Trench's office.
Yep. And as you kind of walk through the halls, again, festooned all over the walls on the way to the elevator, you see a series of posters advising about the dangers of house shifts. One reading, can't find your office, watch your step, and a series of almost like jigsaw-like blocks in a kind of top-down 2.5D illustration are kind of showing that typography as if it's kind of nested within those steps as they were. And then another one saying, delays caused by house shifts do not count towards overtime. And this is what you see as you make your way to the elevator. So I believe in the office of Director Trench, as the elevator ascends, I believe we get a chance to meet the twins. So which of you would like to go first as an exasperated looking Director Trench looks at either of you?
Have I been ordered to volunteer? So I think kind of in the corner of the office, not hiding behind this large kind of extravagant potted fern that but definitely investigating it in such a way as to be obscured from most of the room. You see a slender figure around 5'8", with a mop of poorly dyed hair and dark eyes, who is you see a young man just standing there, just kind of poking and prodding at this at all the petioles of this plant, and just kind of inspecting it, and they look scruffy is probably the nicest way to say it. They look like they kind of look like somebody who is dressing like they think adults dress. And it's kind of clear that at least one of these articles of clothing is which stands out a little bit, is that there is a button-down shirt that is, they clearly are uncomfortable. I think you see, like, as they're poking around, they're just like tugging at the collar a little bit. This is Jamie.
And Jamie, as you are poking the plant, you just hear Director Trench mutter almost under his breath, "You know, I heard that if you talk to them, they actually tend to recover a little bit better. They tend to flourish, as it were." Anyhow, so glad that both of you are here, Jamie. And then points to the second of these two twins. Jane, who do we see?
Right by the plant, there is a fairly long set of bookcases, and just idly perusing the bookcase, you see a figure very similar in shape and size to the one hidden behind the plant, except this one has hair in the natural dark shade with which she was born, and it's pulled up into a tight ponytail. And you once again get the feeling of someone playing at how an adult would dress, except with a stronger effort at emulating it. Like, she also looks like a young person in big people's clothes, but it's very much like this is what I need to wear to be taken seriously. Jane, as Director Trench says that, Jane turns to the director and says, "You know, that's just because you're breathing on them, right? Like, there's no magic to talking to plants." Wait, I forgot I supposed to have an accent. Pretend that wasn't an accent. There's no magic to plants growing just by talking to them.
He looks into you and says, "You know, I know a janitor who might disagree with you."
I mean, y'all just see what you want to see out here sometimes, I'm pretty sure.
Well, be that
Not
as
everything is creepy or otherworldly. I don't know. Whatever.
Be that as it may, I think a good deal of caution on your part might serve you well, Miss Barnett. Anyhow, I have been, a request has come from on high, and as he says this, he stubs a cigarette out in an ashtray on his desk, and you recognize that it is just lined with cigarette butts, at least 8, and it's the middle of the day. And he says, "I've been asked to assign you both to your very first case."
Really?
Yes, it shouldn't be too much of a jaunt. Someplace by the name of Markham, little resort town in the Catskills. Think it'll be fairly interesting procedure. I'm going to ask you guys to shadow a couple of researchers. I know that as your status of intern is of particular interest to my higher up, they insisted that you have an opportunity to learn some of the more nuanced facets of the oldest house, particularly of its research sector. I think that you have a great deal to contribute.
Does this mean we are no longer interns earning experience?
I think the shadowing part is very explicit in the fact that you will be gaining and earning experience. Yes, I'm afraid that your pay rate will not go up as a result of this one, John.
Wait, we were getting paid?
Anyhow, the two experts to which you will both be assigned should be coming along anytime shortly. And at which point, behind you, you hear the ding of the sector elevator some distance away. Oh, well, shouldn't be a minute then. And I think at this point, there are... actually, this is a really important question, I should say. I think that Dr. Bancroft and Dr. Katz, I think you guys managed to get in the elevator at the same time from your two separate escorts. So I am curious as to how awkward that elevator ride was.
So I think Vivian is like finishing off her speech to this underling gopher, probably like just, you know, babbling on about like how she's running, how you run a department and how you don't abandon your department. That's not what you do if you're effectively running a department. And that's probably either when Dr. Katz enters the elevator or when Dr. Katz notices who it is.
We can get the next one, right? We can get the next one.
And I think at this point Emily looks at you like you have antenna coming out of your head and just what? Time is of the essence, Dr. Katz.
And she's like definitely already pressed the button.
Yeah.
Right? Great, cool, great, awesome.
I think as loquacious as Vivian just was, she's suddenly silent. You see her stiffen, like visibly.
And at this point, I think Alan is looking up and kind of surprised that you are not berating him anymore, and just looks and says, "Did the temperature just drop a couple of degrees, or is it just me?"
No, that's a silly question. All of the temperatures and all of the elevators are regulated.
Noted. Yes, I know that now.
What? Somebody say no? Okay, great.
No, I was just remarking upon the fact that the temperatures in these elevators are regulated. That's standard knowledge around here, I believe. Although I know some people might hold certain opinions about that. Not going to name names, but
I don't have any opinion about the temperature of the elevator. Are you saying I have an opinion about the temperature of the elevator? I don't believe I have expressed an opinion about the temperature of the elevator. So if you're saying that I have an opinion about the temperature of the elevator, that's just not supported by facts.
Neither of you see it, but Emily is looking at Tom and mouthing, "What?" and Alan just shrugs his shoulders at Emily.
If you will notice the details, Dr. Katz, I didn't mention anything about a temporal moment of someone commenting on the temperature of the elevator. I didn't specify that such a comment was made in this present moment, merely that despite the fact that time progresses as a cause to an effect, that at some point in the history of these elevators as objects, a point may have been made, a comment may have been made about their temperature.
Ding! Doors open, and at which point Alan and Emily just immediately step off and just say, "So, time."
So we're all agreed, right? We're agreed that the temperature of the elevators was fine and that nobody made any comments.
If you're talking about this present moment, yes, I made a simple observation that the temperature of these elevators is regulated, but where was that lovely piece of information 3 months ago when someone complained about the elevators being too hot, despite the fact that they are always the same temperature.
I thought we were talking about the present moment, Dr. Bancroft.
I made it
That's
very
the impression that I
obvious.
was under. And we're like having this argument.
The doors are beginning to close. Yeah.
Like in front of the director, like walking into the director's
Okay.
office.
I think that Vivian is like continuing to argue this, and she sticks her arm out so that the elevator door like doesn't close, such that they can finish the argument, and literally like needs to be pulled out of the elevator to like go to this meeting.
Yeah, and as
She agreed that we were fine. She agreed that everything was fine, and you all heard it. That's all.
No, I made no such supposition. If you can't produce a recording of me saying everything is fine, then that claim cannot be substantiated.
Okay, well, we'll talk to security and we'll get a recording of the elevator.
it's for the best that that is not substantiated, because things are not fine, at least not in the town of Markham, New York. I think as we learn more about today's requirements, it will become very apparent how not fine they are. Dr. Bancroft, Dr. Katz, thank you so much for joining us. I would like to introduce you to your two interns, respectively, Jamie Barnett and Jane Barnett. I call them the twins.
Director Trench, I have enough
I can
people
see
to
why.
manage.
I think that you do a fine job managing, Dr. Bancroft, and I think that, if anything, taking on more responsibility should be a very welcome asset in your ongoing contributions to this, the oldest house.
Fine.
And finally, Dr. Katz, I take it you won't have any problem managing an intern, will you?
No, sir. No problem at all.
As you are kind of speaking to him, you see that he puts his hands on his hips and just kind of nods, saying "good." And as the jacket of that he wears over his shirt and tie, as the cloth kind of flies back a little bit, you see holstered near his belt is a very singular, odd piece of machinery, a object of power that all of you recognize as the service weapon, essentially the lone object of power typically wielded by the director of the oldest house. And as you watch, it seems to minutely reconfigure and rearrange and basically kind of reform itself as he continues to move and speak to all of you from behind his desk. And laid out on the desk is a set of manila folders with several case files open. Good. So, Bureau of Control got a tip from some local sheriff's departments in Markham. Of course, our agents kind of intercepted communications before any further information could be ascertained. If you would please also communicate, Jane, to Mr. Tomasi, our gratitude for his deft handling of the communications going out to the Markham Press. I would be very much grateful. Yes. So, you're going to wonder why I've called all of you in today. We seem to be in something of a pickle. Some of our rangers have traveled to Markham and are holding steady while we await the results of this investigation. We have noticed some very strange goings on in this one location, and he brings up an aerial photograph of a single family home from a bird's eye view taken in black and white. And he slides the photo across to all of you and says, "This is the family residence of the Palos, a kind of a local family. They've had several generations living in this resort town for quite some time. The Palos 2 parents, 1 singular daughter, no other family to speak of that we can recall. No relations, as far as we know, that are within 50 miles of this residence. And we've noticed a few strange things that exhibit all of the telltale markings of a AWE. And for all of you, that registers as an altered world event. And this is a peculiar one, as the state, I've been told by the local sheriff's department, and we've managed to secure our people on the ground before any further inquiries could be made. I'm told that there was a 911 call to ascertain to communicate a home invasion. When the police arrived, several casualties were recovered and taken to the local morgue. And based on the state of the bodies, we can very sincerely see and say that the FBC needs to be involved. And he slides another photo across to all of you of a body on the slab of a morgue examination table. And you guys are kind of anticipating this fairly kind of graphic depiction as your eyes kind of fall on it. You're kind of expecting to see this profile rendition of the victim of a crime, but instead you see a smoothly blank porcelain face staring up into the camera with a haphazardly drawn on frowning face. It is one smooth sheet of porcelain.
What does it look like when the porcelain meets flesh?
Well, I think that that's going to require a closer look, which is why I'm sending all of you on assignment.
That's really weird.
Actually,
The material, it's not organic.
Not from our observations or our experts. And
Cool.
I think based on your response, Jane, you're the more kind of like, I think, striving of the 2 twins and kind of like striving towards normalcy, I believe. I need you to make me a stability test. The difficulty is going to be 4, as is a standard stability test, because you are being greeted by paranormal phenomena.
I just roll a d6 and add my stability to it?
No,
How
you
does
can
this work?
you can spend a number of points equal to your from your stability pool to shore up your score. And you just roll the d6 and add what you spent to it, and you just need to meet or beat a 4.
Okay, I will add a 2. Well, no, I'll add 1. Let's start slow.
Okay. Go ahead and give me that roll.
Which was a good idea because I rolled a 3 on that dice, and that 1 gets me to a 4.
Okay. So knock 1 off of your pool. Just mark it as a kind of a temporary expenditure. What goes through your mind as you see this strange thing for the first time?
Jane's immediate response is this a chemical reaction? Is this a developed photography / technological error? Like, she is going through all of the things within a rational world that could explain what's going on first, and kind of holding on to those, because yes, several times weird things happen and they have a perfectly logical, boring explanation. So that's what, she's interested in going to see herself, because her theory is that, they're gonna find one.
And I think that, noticing that, I think that Zachariah Trench kind of like looks at all of you and says, I think I have the right people for the job. There are a number of things that give me reason to expect anticipate some measure of astral phenomena, as well as that of some aspects requiring your talents, Dr. Katz. So I'm and particularly in the science of materials as well as parageology. So you're going to be going out on the first transport with a number of rangers. I take it and trust that all of you will be ready before end of business today.
Are you sure there's nothing I can say, Director Trench, to change your mind? I'm not really a field agent, you know. I'm a researcher. I'm an applied metaphysician. I don't know how much use I'm going to be in there, the real world.
I'm afraid that this is not something that's up to me. It comes from the top. And he points up, and you know he is speaking of the board.
I think Vivian's eyes brighten at the mention of the board. Oh, did you speak to them recently? Did they say anything about the weather? I know there've been a couple of storms in the Astral Plane recently, and I would love to ask them how they're finding them, or if these are normal, or anyway, not that it matters. Just I don't know if it came up organically in your conversation.
If it ever does, I will make sure that you are the first to know, Dr. Bancroft. But in the meantime, I ask that all of you prepare your field kits, whatever you require to do any on-site research. We will be, of course, handling the Markham authorities. You are going to be posing as federal agents for the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency. Just make sure that all standard operating procedures are followed.
Can do, sir.
Do we get to keep what we seize?
Never. And there's kind of like...
No, I meant as the TABC, not...
I'll... ask me when you find something.
Okay. I'm just saying. So, you know.
And
what are you planning on taking, kid?
Things the TABC would.
Cripes.
Dismissed. And all of you...
Cripes?
All of you are asked to leave the office of the director. And, you know, all of you, as you are kind of making your exodus, you pass on your way out a number of very fantastically illustrated portraits, all leading up to the current director's portrait of Zachariah, but just a very kind of like disturbingly unbroken line and series of gray-haired white men as you guys are kind of like walking past. Now, assuming that you guys are kind of getting ready to go into the field, do any of you guys take any additional preparations? Do you guys take this moment to discuss things? What do you do?
Well, Jane wants to go to the armory where the Rangers are.
Security.
Where do they hang out?
Yeah,
security.
I think that'll be in containment, maybe. Yeah, I think that.
Okay. So Jane's heading that way. I'm assuming Jamie's probably going to come with her. She's going to go there because she's going out into the field. She's hoping this means she gets a firearm.
And yeah, we'll kind of determine that. What is everybody else doing?
I think as we're heading down there, Jamie kind of tugs on James' sleeves and just goes, "Hey, who's gonna watch the cat? I don't know who to ask."
Don't worry about it. I'll text a neighbor.
You know our neighbors?
Yes, Jamie. We have neighbors. We're in an apartment building. There's 4 on our floor. And sometimes neighbors do things like that, like check in on each other's pets and You know, if there's a weird leak, they tell each other. Or hear weird sounds coming from inside. It'll be okay. Your cat will be okay.
Cool. And
Hey.
Jamie just goes back to staring, spacing out. What?
Are you okay with what we're about to do?
Yeah, it should be fun. See that? You see the weird fucked up face on that guy?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I don't know what it was, if it was a chemical reaction or a weird photography thing, but it's gonna be interesting to see it.
I wonder if it got put there, if it grew.
I'm pretty sure it was a part of whatever killed him.
He got killed by a mask?
I don't know. Weird things happen, but you know, people have weird weapons these days. But hey, you know, we're gonna be on a team with those two brainiacs over there, and you're gonna have to keep it together.
I'm not super worried about me for once.
What do you mean? We have to be good interns if we're gonna get hired.
Yeah, money's good. Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I got this. I promise.
Okay.
It won't be
right.
like last time.
Okay, it's fine. If it's like last time, we'll take care of it like we did last time.
And
But you tell me if anything goes wrong.
okay.
And I think they just keep walking to the containment.
Excellent. Dr. Bancroft and Dr. Katz, do you guys manage to get into another tete-a-tete, or what do you guys do?
I don't think there was an assignment of someone in charge of this mission. Where did you get that impression?
You don't think he put you in charge?
Well, I'm the one with the most direct reports. It would make logical sense. And you do love your logic.
Well, wait a second. You think both of those kids are reporting to you?
I mean, have you managed anyone, Dr. Katz?
I'm a great manager, okay? Probably.
Yes, like you managed the grocery lists. That was really revelatory. How well you managed that and came home with double the amount of things.
That was efficient.
Efficient if you wanted 5 different types of crackers?
Yeah. Each of them is a great cracker.
We don't need 5. I'm never going to. You shouldn't shop when you're hungry. I've always said that. Anyway, you're not a good manager. You've not proven you're a good manager. I'm the one with the managerial skills here, so I think Director Trench wants me to lead the team.
Okay, well, the director said to me, do you think you can manage an intern? And
yes, because you haven't done it before. I clearly have, therefore the question wasn't necessary.
All right, what about this? I manage one of them and you manage the other, and we'll just split it right down the middle.
Okay, but I get the one who looks more engaged. I'll take the girl.
Fine. I want the quiet one.
Perfect. That's settled then.
And
Great.
as you guys are walking along, you hear a humming and work teaches the worker. And you recognize a kind of in his later years, a brown-haired janitor who you recognize as Aughty, who has come up from the maintenance sector and is currently wiping down the floor in research.
Oh, hey there, Audie.
It's good to see both of you. And what is this dog's breakfast that you are discussing? And he is just kind of very quietly wiping the floor whilst some kind of old metal music is kind of melodic metal music is playing off of these yellow headphones on his Walkman. And he's just kind of barely kind of seemingly paying attention as you guys are talking.
Well, we're going out into the field. Someplace called Markham. You ever been there?
The brave eats the soup. And he doesn't seem to hear the question, but just is kind of nodding sagely to himself as he continues to work.
I've never had an entire conversation with him.
I don't think anyone has. Some of the things he says are fascinating, though. I actually found one in a metaphysics book once.
No kidding. Wait,
Yeah.
what book?
It was a
Old one?
no, like a research, but like a monograph from a astrophysicist. It was, well, a metaphysician who was once an astrophysicist.
And as you guys are having this discussion, he says in Finnish, "Päivän pukkassa." Time to go home now. And he takes a ring of keys from his belt, kind of flicks through it absent-mindedly, seems to remember something, make sure everything is there, clips it back onto his belt, and then puts up the mop into his maintenance worker's cart and begins heading back to the elevator. And before he says, "Remember again, the brave eats the soup." And he continues.
I think
I'm
Vivian.
I'm good to cut it there. But what do you have?
No, I was just going to say, literally, I think like Vivian realizes that they've kind of conspiratorially been whispering, and then has a moment of realizing that and stands up really stiffly, very suddenly. Right. Well, I have to set my department in order. I can't leave.
Yeah, of course. Right. Yeah, you got to do your big department stuff. You got a whole department.
Of course, yes. The Astral Plane.
Great. You have the whole department. That's great for you. I'm very happy for you with that. I gotta put some things in a bag, so I'm gonna go do that one for me.
Yeah. Yes. Enjoy the rocks that you find and study. There are many rocks there, I'm sure, to take care of. So, I'm gonna go with the plane and the metaphysics and the. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
So
Talk,
later,
buddy.
Okay. See you tomorrow, friend. And she ducks around a corner, and then you see her press her back up against the wall and just go oh.
I could have watched 20 more minutes of that. Okay. Okay. So all of you make your preparations as you venture out into the field. And so this is very much kind of like the it's kind of like the expectations of Sword from or kind of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's basically a bunch of black Humvees, a bunch of very over kitted out Rangers kind of making their way out into the field, driving up the kind of the road upstate from the oldest house directly to Markham in the Catskills. And all of you are kind of riding along very kind of close in the back of and in kind of this accompanying convoy, accompanying the transport carrying the Rangers, very much almost like a SWAT truck. But essentially, finally, after several hours, all of you arrive in this small resort town, not too far off from kind of the heart of the Catskills. So, I think that you guys have arrived on the scene. Essentially, you guys are tasked with heading to the Palo residence by the kind of local leading ranger. So my question is, does anybody have any preparations that they need to do prior to, or kind of like cover in scenes before we kind of take you to the Palo residence? Or is there a place that you would rather go than the site of the AWE itself?
All right, I'm good.
So it's a whole cadre of us going together, right?
Yeah, I think that basically you guys are the experts, subject matter experts and researchers that are accompanying the rangers. The rangers being the kind of more martial personnel assigned to this task.
So do we roll into town in like military-ish trucks? Like how do we get into town?
Well, yeah, you are part of a convoy of like
that convoy.
Yeah, you are part of that convoy.
Subtle.
You are not being subtle.
That's the question.
You are, but I will say this: subtle is as subtle does. You guys are going in as ostensibly members of the ATF.
Okay.
Oh, I think yeah. So Jamie looks like the most awkward, unfederal agent person you've ever seen in your entire life, with an ATF windbreaker, the hat, the whole kit, and just kind of staring where there would be a window on a passenger van at the side of this. Like, I'm picturing like a Mercedes Sprinter van type deal, or is it armored?
Yeah, I think it's an armored vehicle.
So I think at some point he's pulled out like a little gel paint pen and has been doing some like just real odd mathematical notations on the side of the thing, and then eventually at one point gone a little bit too further over and just kept writing onto the shoulder of one of the other people in the van, and then went back and just started on the next line. Just really, it seems very hyper fixating on whatever is going on here.
Are these equations intelligible to anybody?
Maybe. They look like they have a lot of things that aren't normally in mathematical equations, that's for sure.
So
yeah, Katz will look at them also very awkwardly in an ATF windbreaker and like a t-shirt that says never trust atoms, they make up everything, and like a fake but very authentic looking he's got the badge hanging from the lanyard, right?
I almost want to give you a point for that somehow, but yeah, go ahead.
Says to you,
Psychic damage was real.
Hey kid, I think you dropped an emoji. You needed to square that one to the power of a winky face.
Jamie just kind of stares at you. You know how like a cat stares at you, like it's looking through you at the ghost behind you? Yeah. Jamie looks at you like Goblin, staring through your soul.
Like a little
for
goblin.
a second, and then just goes, no, but actually, and then starts to scribble. I think at this point, this is when the kitted up ranger finally realizes that he's been writing on the sleeve of his jacket.
Yeah,
and
Katz has made absolutely zero effort to stop because he thinks it's fucking hilarious.
It is.
Yeah, as the I think the ranger looks at this, looks back up at you, Jamie, looks back down at the writing, and then just kind of shrugs his shoulders, and then just like cocks his automatic weapon, just checking the barrel down the sights.
Do we have a name for the ranger commander, whoever is in charge of the detachment that's with us?
Yeah, let me go ahead and find that out. 1 second.
What poor bastard got saddled with us chuckle fucks?
And while Zach pulls up that name, next to Jamie on the other side, you see Jane looking like far too comfortable in this ATF windbreaker. Now that they're in the field, she doesn't have to wear like as much play dress up office clothes, and more like comfortable field clothes are definitely where she is. And now you see her kind of like she's leaning against her brother on one side, one leg up on the bench, and she is nose deep in some sort of a book on natural, on like porcelain, clay, stones, and other older building materials. Clearly she's just trying to read something that might have anything to do with, like, she's looking at the chemistry behind how these things are built, and because she doesn't know what she can find out there.
I think Vivian notices this, and Vivian herself is like, so she is dressing fully the part in like, you know, very chic, like what you would imagine, like almost like a TV FBI agent looks like, you know, like very popped collar, like tight fitting blazer. Like the only thing missing is basically stilettos, which obviously would not be practical. But she's got that vibe. And she herself is reading a book that on the spine reads illicit substances. And she is clearly preparing for their cover story. However, as she notices Jane reading this book about porcelain, she kind of smiles to herself and rummages around in her bag and pulls out a much heavier reference tome. And on the spine, this reads like materials and substances found with, you know, both preternatural and real properties. And it clearly is a more theoretically heavy volume as well as just a heavier book. And she like tries to really subtly slide it over to you, but because it's a really heavy book, it just kind of plops.
It makes a loud noise as it like tunks on the metal of the or not the metal, on the kind of like the seat next to you. All subtlety lost.
Vivian pretends it didn't happen.
And Jane, there's just this
Jane just like, without turning her head, just or acknowledging the awkward situation, just like slides it over towards herself.
Excellent. And yeah, I think that, you know, you can feel the eyes of the Rangers kind of like watching this happen, and then just kind of going back to you know, checking last double checks of their M43s as they kind of put everything in order. So you guys arrive on site at the Palo residence. There is waiting for you there the captain of the Rangers, Captain O'Donnell, who is kind of have set up a makeshift ATF tent just outside of this kind of single family dwelling, painted white. It's clearly about 3 stories. So there is, you know, clearly kind of like a ground floor, a second floor, perhaps, you know, and, you know, essentially just looks like a very kind of almost very, just a very kind of provincial, very kind of simple architecture. It kind of looks almost like a prototypical nice like house for a family to live in. There's a little yard. There's a small fence, not white picket, but close enough, and a backyard. And all of the Rangers seem to be on edge. They are kind of like seemingly running interference for the local kind of sheriff's department, basically kind of trying to have as few words and exchanges as possible, waiting for the kind of independent experts to get onto the scene. My question is, because GUMSHOE works about kind of like fairly differently from a lot of like succeed or fail systems, how do you guys start the investigation of this site? what kind of investigative powers do you bring to bear? How do you deal with kind of like the local constabulary? Like, what does this look like for competent Federal Bureau of Control investigators?
We'll let the actual scientists go first.
I mean, like, Katz really doesn't care about any of the, any of the back and forth. He only cares about the cover story because the Bureau cares about the cover story. Though, that's not to say that he's going to go blabbing around to everybody what they're doing. It's more the fact that he's going to ignore everybody and get straight to what he feels is the task at hand, which is starting to collect samples. So whatever gets him from car to collecting dirt at the scene the fastest is what he's doing. That's what he's interested in.
Okay, so as you begin kind of heading directly with your field kit towards the house, you see Captain O'Donnell put a hand on your chest, like I think very surprisingly quickly. Whoa! Hold on. You need to get outfitted for an HRA first. Dr. Darling's orders. Okay, nobody can go on site without an HRA. It's going to be standard operating procedure. Hopefully soon, but in the meantime, executive order on behalf of Dr. Darling.
I don't have an HRA. I took the standard deductible insurance, okay? So let me go through.
Look, you cannot go on site of an AWE going forward unless you wear one of these. It is it's Dr. Darling's orders for all field teams.
Okay.
And he's
okay. What is this? What does this do?
Myron, just do it. Just take the thing. Just take it, whatever it is.
He says,
but what does it do? I mean, I want to know too. I don't like putting anything on my body without knowing what it is.
Hey, what was that? That is above my pay grade, but here's what you need to put on. And he begins kind of pulling out these, those same kind of devices that Dr. Katz that you saw everybody wearing. They are essentially kind of like harnessed, the main kind of mechanism being situated on your chest, and they easily weigh about anywhere from about 10 to 15 pounds when you put them on. But wow. As you kind of put on this,
I'm like hefting this. Like, listen, I'm all for safety equipment, but is this really necessary?
And as you heft it, he just begins kind of like uncomfortably cinching you into the harness and like, basically pulling the belt like tight. And he...
Okay, watch the goods.
And
there's the click of a camera shutter as Jamie manages to catch a very candid shot of Katz going as these straps are being cinched, and he's pulled out a pretty weird looking camera. It looks handmade out of a bag, and just kind of like.
I will say this. This
is why I would rather be in a lab.
As you put this on, you realize actually, Dr. Katz, that this has, you hear a hum kind of stir up as he flicks a switch on the HRA itself. And you realize that whatever this is, from your parageology experience, you realize that this is powered by BlackRock. So
what do you think, Doc? Is that some kind of armor?
Kind of. It's a project the director of research has been working on for a long time. He's keeping it very close, slap to the chest. I don't know much about it, but safety equipment is safety equipment. We cannot disappoint our good captain.
Yep.
I will say I've seen
me up, Captain.
I've seen some of these things go on astronauts, or at least those that actually materially try to manifest in the astral plane. So I imagine it's reasonably safe, at least no more dangerous than going to the astral plane.
Yeah. Hopefully it offers some protection for.
Jamie sees Jane's eyes start to twitch as you start talking about the astral plane and takes another candid camera shot. This time of Jane kind of looking just as almost perfectly on profile as Jane's kind of looking at you, and you can see like a blood vessel.
Well, and when you take that photo, Jane hears the click and pulls out her own much more impressive looking camera and just takes a very up close candid portrait essentially of, she's using
dueling DSLRs. I love it.
Well, I think Jamie's is some homemade bullshit. That's probably got a 20-year-old disposable camera as its base somewhere. Jane's is actual like photography equipment because photography is one of the random hobbies she has also picked up over time.
Love it.
I think Vivian shoots you both a withering look and says, save some film for the actual evidence. Why don't you?
Hey, Doc, it's electric.
Mine's not.
All right. Okay. So I take it you are the subject matter experts that the director sent. Look, this is the most important thing you have to understand. No one is to go inside of the house without an escort from us. We still need to clean and sweep the interior of the house for any additional threats. You are going to remain outside until we complete this task. That is non-negotiable. Let me just very clearly make that clear. Non-negotiable.
So then why are we here?
You're going to go ahead, give us a sweep of the perimeter. Once it's safe to go inside, whole place is your oyster.
Hang on, though.
How long is that gonna be?
It's going to take a little bit of time.
The perimeter, presumably what happened here, the evidence is all in the house, right? So why would we sweep the perimeter? That doesn't make any sense at all.
And as which point you just you see him turn his head to Dr. Cass and says, I believe that is your purview.
I mean, I've watched a lot of criminal shows in my time, and sometimes the perpetrators drop things on their way out, or,
Yeah, well,
like
if
that.
we're talking about an AWE, we're talking about probably an epicenter with some concentric circles of phenomena. So we'll start at the outside and work our way in.
Sorry, I should have been more specific. I think the stuff that's going to concern me is probably inside the house. Katz can do whatever he does with rocks and things out here. I expect just as well.
I do with rocks. Don't pretend like you don't know what I do with rocks.
I'm just generalizing. It wasn't a slight at you. It's just, broadly speaking, what you do with rocks is an easier way to talk about all the specific things you do with rocks.
Oh, so it's easy. Okay, cool. I see. Yeah.
It's not theoretical.
You're making me look great in front of these interns.
Well, I think you lost any sort of laurels that you had when you failed to put on the HRA with any sort of grace or finesse.
Put it on. It's on. I look great, probably.
I think if the photo, like the analog photo, I don't know, does the camera print photos, or is it just like, can she point to the photo?
Is it like a Polaroid, or is it like a
Jane's isn't. I don't know. Is Jamie's Polaroid?
So Jamie's is an abomination. Jamie's actually is also a Polaroid and has some questionable lenses. I think this is very much some homemade ghost hunters bullshit. And
in which case, Vivian will totally point and just be like, "That photo, that's why you don't look respectable."
Wait. I'm confused. What does Laris Nobilis have to do with all this?
What?
You said you lost some? How'd you lose? You lost a tree?
Respectability?
You said you lost your laurel. Where'd it go? I'm confused.
Well, but it's an expression. It's about respectability. And no, there's no trees here, except for the ones around us, which presumably have nothing to do with whatever transpired here. It was a turn
Also,
of phrase.
what's your deal?
My deal?
We're related. That's pretty obvious. What's your deal?
I am a forensic geologist with the FBC, and Dr. Bancroft is a metaphysician, and we are scientists. I
know who you are. I'm asking what your deal is.
Look,
That's not normal.
I got about this much time, guys. What's going on? Are you gonna go ahead and do the sweep of the perimeter or what?
Yeah, that'll be fun. Let's do it.
And so he's kind of tasked you this. I will tell you this, however, if any of you have cop talk, you might be able to negotiate out of this for like a point spend here.
I got this close to taking it, but I did not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
I have bureaucracy.
Okay, I will tell you this. If you want to finagle y'all's way into the house, you can spend bureaucracy.
All right.
I have another suggestion. Potentially, so I have intimidation. Can I try to intimidate my way into the house?
So that's a general ability, right? Or is that investigative?
No, it's interpersonal, but not investigative. Well, yeah, so it's an investigative under interpersonal.
Okay. Whoever wants to spend can do this if you would like.
And so just since this is my first time with investigative abilities, our pool is equal to our actual rating in there, right? So would you spend 1 point?
Yeah, if you spend 1 point, I will say that you can cow this guy into letting you in. Now, basically, ranger captains are pretty tough, but they're beholden to bureaucracy and beholden to higher ups like anybody else. What is going to be important to me is what does this look like? How do you very competently intimidate this guy into letting you into the house?
Are you intimidating? Okay, yeah.
I can do that if no one else wants to try.
I mean, we could do bureaucracy or intimidation. I think intimidation will be funnier. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
because you can pull rank.
Yeah.
Right. Like out of all of us, you're the obvious choice to pull rank.
Yeah. So I think that's what she'll do. I think she'll go right up to this cop and go, "Look, whatever your name is, I know you probably have orders from someone not to let us into the house. I understand that. I'm a manager. The people under me, I would, be a little upset if they went against my direct orders without talking to me first. However, if someone like, I don't know, let's say the director came forward and needed something or challenged my authority, I would listen to that. And let me tell you something. The director sent me here not to do a perimeter sweep because the perimeter is not going to tell me anything. The stuff that I'll be useful for, it's all on the inside of that house. So if you're not going to let me in there, I'll tell you what, I just as well could have not been along on this adventure. And, I think the director wouldn't have sent me on this adventure if he didn't want me to go into the house. So you see how it's basically like the director is overruling the authority of whoever you report to.
Let's get the lady in HRA. Let's go. And all three of you remaining get outfitted with these Hedron resonance amplifiers. So
Jamie looks like you're putting a cat in a walking harness this whole time. It's incredibly awkward.
Wait. There's two modes of that. Are you no bones or all bones?
No bones.
I'm just seeing the vine where they're dragging the cat on a leash over a lawn.
I think Jamie's just like, being touched.
You're fine. You're fine. You'll be fine.
I don't like it.
I know.
And as you guys make your way into the house, there is kind of a gloom, kind of a pall cast over this small family dwelling. And when we come back from the break, we're going to start the investigation proper. So, what are you guys doing to investigate the site as you are let into the house after intimidating Captain O'Donnell into letting you in? Before you get started and before you kind of say, I will say that essentially I will kind of reiterate some of this description. It's a 3-story house. It is small, painted white, with a fairly kind of nicely kept aesthetic. It looks like almost like a prototypical suburban family home. There is a picket fence all around the area around you. And not only that, it seems like this dwelling can support kind of a ground floor as well as a second floor. So with all that kind of like taken in, where do you guys start? How do you conduct your investigations?
So I think as soon as the door is opened for us, are there rangers who are escorting us? What's the deal with them?
There is a squad of 4 rangers that are accompanying all of you as part of this convoy. They came in directly on a kind of like a armored Humvee vehicle. Everybody is kind of working with the local constabulary, ostensibly as ATF agents. You have kind of been brought in to kind of like, that is your cover story for this situation. Not only that, but you guys also arrived in your own separate kind of smaller armored vehicle alongside one of the other rangers, namely Captain O'Donnell. I believe Captain O'Donnell was actually not Captain O'Donnell, but another of the rangers, one of whom that Jamie managed to write a bunch of formulae on their uniform.
Cool. All right. So yeah, Katz is gonna turn to the rangers and say, all right, you've got coveralls, right? You've been going in there with coveralls on, right?
And they look and they kind of like look at each other and say, what do we look like, amateurs here? We're waiting for you to conduct this. We were going to perform a clean sweep just to make sure. We're not going to try to touch anything that's been affected by the AWE, as far as we can tell. We're here to, make sure that there are no unfriendlies in the area.
Okay, I'm just asking you to watch where you put those boots.
Noted. And yeah, Captain O'Donnell shoots this kind of second class ranger a look and kind of like begrudgingly nods.
And Katz is going to reach into I think he has maybe a duffel bag or a backpack or something slung over his shoulder that he brought from the bag that he packed previously, and is going to start pulling out full body white coveralls and throwing them at everybody on the team. Okay, suit up.
Do all
Jamie.
Yeah.
Jamie gleefully takes off this windbreaker, leaves the hat on, but is just kind of like it's like shedding an unnatural, gross bureaucracy skin. And he is very clearly his body language is while still awkward, joyous to be free of it.
Awesome. Everybody else follow suit? Cool.
Vivian has this begrudging look in her eye, but she does it.
Katz is pulling on the coveralls, and he's looking at Janie and Jamie with a bit of a death glare. All right. Now, I know you kids are smart. You would not be here if you were not very, very smart. I do not doubt that you're smart, but they're smart and they're smart. And I am going to tell you one thing. And the thing that I am going to tell you is do not touch anything. What did I just say? Eh?
You asked us if we were idiots.
Okay. you
We're
failed.
not.
Quiet one. What did I just say? Okay, they both failed. I don't know. Vivian, what do you got?
We're not
Aw.
idiots. We're not going to touch things with our bare hands.
Okay,
It's
good.
cute watching you
no,
manage.
No. I did not say with your bare hands. I said at all.
It's cute watching you try to manage people.
I'm not managing them. I'm stopping them.
By telling them not to touch anything. Is that your idea of managing people?
So
Again,
We're just going to
I'm
walk
managing.
that
yeah,
way.
Jamie has like slowly sunk into the peripheral vision of cats and
look
is
with
heading
your
for
eyes,
the door.
not with your fingers.
All right.
Hey, you, kids, wait. Okay, we need to establish what you're good at. What are you good at?
Surveillance?
Okay, you're good at surveillance. So,
Research. I'm pretty good at research. I can follow a mean footnote.
I know things.
I mean,
no
I
things.
I know
Specify.
things too. Well, I win trivia contests. Is that what we're talking about?
Okay, let's dig into that a little bit more. You know things, like ontologically, you know things, you just know them, you have a feeling. Can you quantify it?
Yes.
She goes,
Okay, if you can quantify it, we can use it. So, what do you feel? Take in this scene, take in this house. How do you feel about it?
This is very uncomfortable.
Do you need to be alone to feel the house?
Yeah.
Right. I suggest we all focus on things in terms of categorizing this scene that we are good at and that we have specialization in. Dr. Katz and I already know what those things are for us. I suggest that you two figure out what they are for you and go ahead and start doing them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look in the office, or I'm gonna start looking at some papers.
Sounds like a good use of your time.
Yeah.
And you?
look.
I have to move the papers around to see what they all say.
I don't know. I don't know what to do here.
And I think Captain O'Donnell.
Jamie takes a picture of you as you go.
I think Captain O'Donnell, looking at all of you very awkwardly, says, the locals are here and probably requests whatever surveillance footage they may have if you guys want to take a look outside. But otherwise, I can't really help you.
Can I look around to see if there are internal cameras?
That is a very good question. I will go ahead and say that as kind of surveilling is one of your core abilities, one of your investigative abilities, you notice very quickly that there is a ring cam set up for the Palo family.
Alrighty. And in my best emulation of Director Trench, Jane will turn around to not O'Connell, but the ranger with the new sleep tat, and say, "All right, I see electronic cameras. Do we have access to the login information for the family? If not, can we get someone to break in there? Because we need to see what happened."
And Captain O'Donnell looks at you and says, "I'll see what I can do." And he heads off to interface with the local constabulary. We're going to go ahead and kind of shortcut this and basically say within about 20 minutes, you get a special order with extra power from the FBC. So no kind of corporation can kind of really refuse it. And
nice.
you get access to the ring cam footage. I will say that you can do that for a point spend. How many can you spend here?
I have 1 in electronic surveillance, so that's that one, but that's okay.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and say that point spend is going to give you the core clue that you need.
Sweet.
Okay. So before I kind of cover what that looks like, who else has something? Sorry, did I interrupt you, Hops?
Oh, it's okay. I'm fully embodying my character. So Jamie has a tape measure and a plumb line, and is measuring the house with excruciating precision.
Okay. All right. What investigative ability does this represent?
Fucked if I know.
Being fucking weird.
Being weird. Can I go with being weird? Honestly, I have a point in archaeology because it was a hyperfixation. Can I argue that this is using skills learned with with a 2-month intention of being an archaeologist?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will tell you this. It is through material remains, so that this basically does kind of represent a kind of a take on forensic. Yeah, so this is forensic archaeology. I will say that that you are trying to practice.
The archaeology is just relative.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say if you would like to do a point spend, you can also find out as much information as you need here for another core clue to give you a little bit of context. But the core clue that you discover, so for Jane, it is the ring cam footage. For you, what you immediately notice, archaeology being kind of like the study of people's passings and kind of comings and goings, and they're kind of typically reserved, traditionally thought of as like very historically minded, but at the same time, forensic archaeology would be really kind of within the wheelhouse of recent passings and have more in kind of common with a lot of the things that you'd see in like forensic pathology, that sort of thing. So in this case, I will say that you notice something. Several things, in fact. You notice a window that appears to be broken from the inside as you kind of walk very gingerly around the living room area of this small house. The other thing I will say that you notice is that with a point spend, you will get some additional context here.
I would like to do so. And it is important to Jamie that he gets the exact exterior dimensions of the house.
Okay. So I will say that we'll go ahead and get that additional context to you as we kind of finish our round robin here. So, Dr. Katz, what does your investigation look like?
So I think Katz is going to withdraw from the duffel bag, rucksack, backpack. I haven't decided what. It's a backpack. That's easy.
Transport.
It's a backpack. Yeah, it's right. It's not like a fancy backpack. It's definitely like a college kid's backpack. And I think he takes out some equipment. And maybe some sort of like retro futuristic scanning device, and I am going to be sort of going up and down the hallways into rooms, adjusting this thing, and I am very specifically looking for extra dimensional matter that may be present in this house.
Okay. So I am going to treat your device like it's basically a Geiger counter. Okay.
Sure.
So the idea is as you guys are walking around, you realize that your device is like the PKE meter, whatever you want to call it. The readings are off the charts. And as you kind of travel like inside the house, it seems to kind of get stronger and stronger. particularly of the second story of this building. The other thing you kind of notice, I will say, with your parageology talent or investigative ability, is your feet were crunching on the soil outside of the house proper, and you realize the soil wasn't seemingly normal soil. And I think that as part of your investigative abilities, because you are one of the foremost experts, if not one of the greatest expert in parageology, outside of someone like a generalist like Dr. Darling, perhaps, is you would have taken a sample. Now, I will say for these two separate investigations, you can again spend points, one apiece, and you will get additional context.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with the with the soil.
Okay.
Because that's a direct like cats. If there's something weird about the dirt, Katz will notice that right away, and he's immediately taking samples. And he's the sort of person who definitely narrates what he does a little bit, like, oh, all right, well, that's weird. Something wrong with this soil here.
And great, we're gonna get back to that too. We'll do the round robin whole thing. Dr. Bancroft, what does your investigation look like?
Yeah, so Vivian is looking for ontological markers, meaning objects whose reason for being has been questioned. And her hypothesis, and it has been proven to be true, at least in the Bureau of Control, is that objects whose reason for being has been questioned retain some aspect of that question, thereby making it easier to identify things which are not of this world, because they are often questioned more than other objects. So she is going to be looking for that. And I think she's also going to be looking for whatever exists of historical documentation about this house. So like photographs of it from different time periods, with different families that have lived there, especially visual, like photo evidence of like how the rooms looked, and if there are certain objects that appear in different, like the same object appearing in different centuries or historical moments.
Absolutely. Once again, you may give me, I will say this is a 2-point spend. Do you have enough points for that, or?
Yeah, so if I spend my 2 points in history, that'll tap me out for history.
Awesome. So you are conducting field research, and I'm going to go one by one as you guys kind of ascertain what you've kind of discovered. So there is nothing very unusual about, I will say this with regard to, rather than giving you a quantitative measure of the house, Jamie, the thing that immediately you clock is that the house is equivalent in size on the inside as it is on the outside. So there is no kind of like dimensional kind of interference. There's no kind of like liminal spaces at work here. The house seems to be relatively nominal, as it were. However, remind me what the other line of inquiry here that you had was as you're kind of like investigating.
The total number of windows, as well as
that's
the
right,
height of the house as well. Just like making sure all the egresses are accounted for, and that the big thing was making sure that we know how big it is on the outside. So if that differs from the inside, that's a measurable phenomenon.
As you are kind of like, once again, kind of making your way through the house, we did kind of notice that one of the windows was smashed. It was smashed from the inside. You also noticed where the window was smashed from the outside of this kind of like front door. Basically a kind of like a nice kind of almost French door style, where there are a few kind of like looking glass kind of like vantage points through the door. Somebody smashed their way in ostensibly to open the front door, but as you get to the window that is adjacent to the living room, you notice that one of the windows is smashed from the inside. The glass fragments are outside. And there appears to be a small blood stain on one of the tips of the fragments outside of the window. And not only that, you see what looks to be a porcelain human-sized finger, at least at first glance.
Take a picture of it.
As you take that picture of it with your kind of photography skill, as you kind of zoom in on it, you notice that the texture of the porcelain finger changes so that it seems like it has tiny hairs on one side of it. And as it goes further up the knuckle, it becomes completely smooth.
Hairs like spider hairs or hairs like human hairs?
Like human hairs.
Jamie's gonna take out a back scratcher and roll it over. Like a telescoping one with the little bare hand on the end.
Mm-hmm. As you move this object over, you notice a discoloration of one patch where it appears to be white on the side that you first saw as you turn it over. It is the color of Caucasian skin, and there is a small divot of very kind of deep red flesh with what looks to be dried blood on it.
Jamie will take a few more pictures.
And as you also kind of like walk around, you do finally, I think in your reverie, finally notice the evidence marker and the basically the outline in white tape of the body where the presumably one of the casualties fell. So that is what the context that you get from your investigation. So, moving down the line, Jane, you were going ahead and scrubbing the ring cam footage as you had found this. You saw, I think, from the front of the ring cam, from the front door, this night vision camera that was ostensibly kind of nestled in a hard to see corner of the eaves of the entryway. You scrub the footage and you see that there are two people in ski masks that are entering through the front door. You see somebody lurch their elbow forward after seeing it kind of like covered in this puffy jacket. And you see that person, after bringing their elbow back, reach in with their other hand as you realize that they are opening the door to find their way in. And after you scrub the footage even more, there is the hint of some sort of kind of like flurry of activity some minutes later in one corner of the footage, as if somebody had kind of like rushed out of frame, like something like 15 or 20 minutes later. Otherwise, that is the only footage that you get of what are ostensibly two intruders. So that is your context. Okay. Moving forward, I believe, Dr. Katz, as you are taking a look, so there are two things that immediately become apparent to you about the soil. One is that it is apparently partially made out of ceramics, which is very unusual to you because ceramics are created and forged from clay. You would anticipate that there might be some like semblance of clay in any kind of soil or in like a river bedrock, for instance, or a riverbed. But the entire soil immediately around the house has a soil that is completely, almost like 50% composed of ceramics. And this is an artificial process to create it.
Right. It's not just clay. It's been treated, taken through the next steps.
Exactly. And the scale of it, as you kind of like dig deeper into the soil around the house, you realize that same pattern is present to about a foot deep within the soil, which would be impossible to do. At least by natural man-made means. The second bit of context that you get with your point spend is that reading of interdimensional kind of qualities is off the charts all around you, suggesting that whatever AWE this was, it has suffused the area. But the issue you find is that as you bring the meter closer and closer to the stairs, whatever the source of this kind of interdimensional radiation is, it's originating from upstairs.
Cool.
That's your context. Now,
how or if I assume like I take a sample, go a little bit, take a sample, go a little bit. How far out is the radius of this phenomena, and does it just end or does it drop off?
I would say it drops off after a radius of about from the center of the house about 50 feet.
Cool.
So basically you have a 100 diameter foot circle around the house, centered on the house, at which point that kind of like the percentage of composition of the soil starts dropping off from like 50% ceramics to like 25%, then 10, and then 5, and then none.
Cool.
Finally, Dr. Bancroft, you are studying the history of this house, and as you are doing field research, ostensibly working on Bureau of Control certified electronics, you are looking up the history and diving into basically the FBC version of like LexisNexis, and kind of like consulting digitized microfiche about the area. And with your 2-point spend, you know a few things, which is that this family is of basically this house has belonged to the Paolo family for quite some time. The family was originally Finnish immigrants that came over into Ellis Island and then migrated upstate. The parents and the children that you find out about the living relatives of this family within the estate are the Paolo matriarch and patriarch, about 2 people that seem otherwise kind of unremarkable in their middle age. They work some of the hospitality services within the resort town here, ostensibly working retail and administration for several large kind of hotels for residents, or kind of off seasonal residents rather. And not only that, they have a young daughter. So the family is Amelia Paolo is the daughter, and she is about 8 years old at this point, according to your records. And the 2 parents are ostensibly Cassandra Paolo as well as Thomas Paolo. So the thing that does crop up in your research as you are looking for specifically for objects that have a kind of ontological context, and something that you do continue to see as you look through the records, is there is a featured in several older family photos of ancestors of this family, featured a large Victorian style dollhouse. It's about 3 feet high, and as far as you can tell, kind of relative to the people standing in the photos. And not only that, I will say with that history spend, you also get access to the floor plans of the house. There is the ground floor, there is a second floor, and you realize that there is also ostensibly enough room for an attic.
Is there a photo of this dollhouse like that I can see or come across? Like, is it just kind of grainy? What details can I make out from what I can see about the dollhouse?
Well, I will say this, from what you can tell, this is a Victorian style dollhouse. It is 3 floors. Essentially there is kind of like this nice overhang and a second floor terrace. All of the doors are windowed. The terrace itself having French completely windowed doors. The exterior seems to be completely white with black accents of a colonnade out front that support the terrace, as well as black doors. Otherwise, I would say it's fairly ornate when you look at it. Some of the photos are grainy, so you can't make out a lot of detail there. But suffice to say, it looks like a fairly well-made heirloom piece.
Excellent.
All right, so this is all the information that you've gotten from these kind of core clues at the scene, being the competent researchers you are. Now, the next thing I have to ask is, what do you guys do with this information?
All right, well, we're dealing with an AWE, no doubt about that. The extra dimensional resonance in this place is off the dang charts.
Yes, and I think we might actually have an object of power involved. There's a dollhouse that keeps cropping up in photos. It has ontological markers, Perdurian markers, actually. And I think she looks around. Do you know what Perdurianism is?
No, me as someone who's not played Control, the answer is no.
No. It's a metaphysical concept. So she realizes that people don't understand what this is.
This is Marissa flexing on everybody.
I don't know. Yeah, fair.
He's a metaphysician. So Perdurianism, so for an object to exist through time is for it to exist as a continuous reality. So whether or not you consider the object as a whole, you have to consider it as an aggregate of all of its temporal parts, right? Or its various instances of existing in various times. So objects which have more temporal parts are more complex entities in space and time. So in theory, metaphysically anyway, objects of power have that power in part because they have lived through history and aggregated power over that amount of time. So I think her observation connecting to metaphysics is effectively like, I can identify that this dollhouse is an object of power because it has these ontological and Perdurian markers.
Well, so you think we're dealing with a full-on object of power because of these markers and not just an altered item? You think the markers go back far enough? Or
I think it's hard to say because we only have the evidence that is at our disposal, but this dollhouse occurs at various historical periods. It seems to me like that could be an object of power, but yeah, I don't want to speculate too much.
Why did it start changing people into? I think it's some sort of ceramic.
Hold on. Y'all should also look at this surveillance video, and I think Jane's just gonna pull it up and show it to everybody, since that's easy and doesn't require touching.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all make of that?
Well, looks like a standard break-in to me, and we can see the evidence here. And Katz will gesture to where the window is broken in perfect line with the video.
Well, that suggests it's a break-in that turned into something else.
Could be.
So it started out as a regular old crime.
Zach, can I look through my? Can I? Shit, fuck! I'm taking Polaroids. Can I flip through the pictures I've taken and like I imagine like it actually it's cooler than a regular Polaroid. I take the picture and then I hit print and it prints to a little thing in my bag.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, that picture of the close up of the partially porcelainized
Fingy.
per porcelain.
Mm-hmm.
Per porcelain.
Per porcelain, yeah.
Yeah. Fingy. Did that have fingerprints on it?
As I will say that it was an index finger. And as it traveled up, this is about the area of the dislocation. And as it traveled up the knuckle, it got smoother and completely porcelain white.
So would it be possible to pull a partial from it?
You could try. I will say this. Do you have any relevant investigative abilities to spend?
Do you have fingerprinting?
No. What?
Oh.
I feel like that would be under evidence collection.
Yeah.
I also don't have that. I'm just weird.
So I will say this. It ostensibly, if you want to remember for stuff like this, with GUMSHOE, you are allowed to keep 2 points unspent to basically have them available over the course of an investigation when you first start out. If you would like to reassign 2 points, I can give you this.
I'm holding out
fingerprinting
for
is
her
its own
explosive
skill.
devices.
Yeah, I mean, you can also mention it to someone because I have, for example.
Yeah, well, that's why Jamie, he's pulling out the picture. If this was a break-in, ain't it likely that, I mean, per criminal statistics, most break-ins occur after ramping up here and stuff. And he realizes that he's been talking for like a whole sentence to people that aren't his sister. And anyways, here, look at this, and holds out the Polaroid.
Uh-huh. So, whose finger is that?
Presumably
And-
the person, one of the people that entered the house but didn't leave.
Maybe, but we don't have evidence yet. So, we'll collect some, and we'll find out if that hypothesis is true.
Yeah,
The
so
bodies have all fingers, right?
one of them is missing a finger.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So, do we still have the?
Jane just goes, that one.
Do we have like a dossier that tells us how many bodies were recovered, or do we have to like talk to the police or the rangers or somebody?
I will tell you this. No need to kind of like visit here. I will say if you wanted to access the bodies, you would need to deal with local constabulary.
Right.
But
I just want to know how many they got.
yeah, they got 2 bodies from the scene. One of them seemed to be the adult bodies, rather kind of like large, but at the same time completely smoothed over in porcelain. And one of these kind of porcelain figures that kind of resembles almost like a crash test dummy, sans features, is missing one of its index finger.
I think Vivian is going to share information about the family that lives here, the sort of two, so Cassandra and Thomas, and posit, do we think that these bodies potentially are these two, the patriarch and the matriarch?
Are they the
way I
same
see
height?
it, I have two theories. They're either the 2 adults who lived in the house, or they're the 2 people who broke in, right?
Yeah, unlikely it's 1 and 1, because, yeah.
Bingo, kid.
But if it is the 2 parents, there's a child as well, and where is she?
Jade makes eye contact with Jamie.
I can take a look.
Did you say there was an object of power?
Well,
here?
potentially.
Potential object of power.
Yes, we all know that it's a potential object of power. As I said, we can't identify it as an object of power until we actually see it. So it is likely to be either an altered item, and she shoots a pointed look at Dr. Katz, or it's an object of power.
So is the next step to go upstairs and look for it?
At which point, Captain O'Donnell chimes in, "Not without an escort, you're not."
So
So wait, you guys are all pointing at Dr. Bancroft? Okay. At which point,
yeah, everybody's just kind of.
and,
Listen, man, you figured that out with the doc.
and at which point,
No, listen, the boys can come. It's fine. Just, again, I told this to the kids, and they're smart, so they get it, even though they won't admit it. Don't touch anything. Right? Right. Great.
You do realize by asking people not to touch things, you make it increasingly more likely that they will touch something. This is just a fact of human nature, and the folks in probability studies have shown that this is in fact the case.
But then how am I supposed to get them to not touch anything if I don't tell them not to touch anything?
We'll try some reverse psychology. Tell them to touch everything, and maybe they won't want to touch
Then
something.
they'll touch everything!
Wait, are we supposed to be touching everything?
No. They're just doing their thing. Ignore.
Okay.
I swear to
I'm
God,
hungry.
kid.
all right, so we're going
Who are you
upstairs.
talking to?
Yes.
We're that is the okay. All right, folks, let's go ahead. And they just say blackout procedure. Let's go. At which point they seem to usher off the constabulary as best they can. Just be like, this is federal business, ATF. We just got a tip. There's a bomb in the area. Leave us to the to disarm it. And like basically just like the most rushed slapdash a kind of excuse you could garner from any such federal FBC circumstance, but all of the FBC operatives are carrying M43s and grenade launchers, and so the local sheriff's department wanders off.
Yeah. Just back away from that.
Yeah, exactly. And then so including the captain, you have 4 operatives moving up the stairs, basically acting as point men, rifles at the ready, kind of looking through it, spectroscopes, basically kind of, and night vision goggles attached to the top of their helmets. Each of them begin clearing the rooms, traditional military style, signaling to each other with the hand gestures quietly, while all of these guys are large, athletic, lean guys wearing and women wearing boots that are nevertheless completely silent as they make their way expertly up the stairs and begin clearing the rooms. You guys are making up the rear. What do you guys do?
Katz is absolutely fiddling with his what I am now going to start calling the extra dimensional resonance detector.
Excellent. Got a name, extra dimensional resonance detector. The ERD. All right. You're
Yeah, it's the new extra dimensional resonance detector.
the nerd.
It's the Eddard?
The nerd.
Oh, the nerd.
Yes, excellent. All right. So you're what was it? You're using the nerd to find your way up. And you hit a point where the resonance, like it seems to kind of peak. And as you kind of move side to side around the room, you realize that there is no kind of like it plateaus out. And that is when both you and Dr. Bancroft look up. Dr. Bancroft, because you realize that there is an attic within the floor plan of this house. And also, you start getting a peek on the nerd as you begin raising your arm, and both of you look up, and there is an attic pull-down ladder with the drawstring pulled close to the ceiling that if you reach up and grab, you can pull down and pull down the ladder to ascend it.
Do y'all stop walking? Because I think
Yeah, I mean, I'm like pointing.
Jamie and I are behind you, so we'll be like a step.
Yeah, I'm
behind
like
you.
pointing my device basically straight up. The resonance is strongest up there. That's the epicenter of this.
Jamie slurps a Capri Sun straight into your ear.
Where did you get that?
I packed very full backpacks, didn't you?
Don't you think about lunch when you're gonna be traveling?
No.
Oh my god.
Eh,
Who goes into the field without snacks?
Usually there's
And you
not
see
time.
Jane's there, like quickly polishing away. They lost him a granola bar.
So yeah, there is a pull string. What do you guys do?
If nobody stops him, Jamie's gonna just. Hmm? Or just.
I guess we have to.
Okay, I said some things about touching. I said a lot of things about touching. A lot of things.
The ladder extends down to the carpet of this upper landing of the second floor, and you just hear, I think you hear Captain O'Donnell turn, and you hear one ranger say to the other, "I thought we weren't supposed to touch anything." Yeah, that's what they said. Oh, all right, well, they know what they're doing. And again, all the M43s kind of train on the spot, and good trigger discipline. They keep the barrels down as they look kind of expectantly at Captain O'Donnell to ascend the staircase. Do you guys wait for them?
Yeah. Katz,
Jane's got a hand on Jamie's collar, holding him back. He is not going up there first.
Yeah. Katz gestures to it and says, "Okay, have at it, boys." And by the way, turning to Jamie, we write reports on what you do after this.
Noted. And Captain O'Donnell says, "Okay, folks, on me, stay on my 6." And he begins ascending the ladder.
Vivian has a notebook out and she's taking notes while watching Captain O'Donnell descend.
Okay.
Jane is standing she puts her body in between Jamie and the ladder, and she looks about as tense as the folks going up.
I think the doctor might be the only person that properly notices, but Jamie looks more very calm body wise, but his eyes look hungry.
Okay. And as there's a couple of minutes as everybody except for one ranger file up into the attic. The one person is kind of acting as overwatch, kind of looking behind you and making sure that there are no additional threats, as the other 3 have made it into the attic. And nothing happens for about a minute. And then you hear, "Hey, I think you might want to see this." What do you guys do?
Does you mean me?
You guys are the experts. Whoever's coming up, you got to come up now.
Okay. All right.
There's like a weird twin conversation happening that's like mostly like half words and like some head
Grunts and
gestures.
shoves and
Yeah.
shoulders. And Jane's gonna start climbing.
Okay. So Jane climbs. Does anybody else go with her?
Jamie is right behind.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
Cats will I think follow the twins with a okay, just slow down. Like this is just regular unsafe. This isn't even extra dimensional unsafe. There's not even a handrail. Come on. Oh my God.
actually, I think the evidence suggests it is both extra dimensionally unsafe and regular unsafe.
Oh my
Thank you, Dr. Bancroft. Really appreciate that input right now.
You're very welcome.
Love it. Okay.
I love it. It's mom, dad, and their kids.
Okay.
Worst family.
Dr. Bancroft, are you following your way up?
Yes.
Okay. So all of you make your way into the attic. And the Rangers are shining their rifle mounted flashlights all around the area. There are a number of what look to be old covered furnishings. There are a number of kind of boxes with storage, kind of with labels written on them, things like family photographs, or what was it? Yearbooks, seasonal clothing. But further into this attic, as the rays of the sun begin kind of setting, there is a table at one end of the attic, and on it sits a Victorian style dollhouse that corresponds to the photograph that you saw, Dr. Bancroft, across several series of photographs associated with the family. And it seems to be very well lit in this kind of like golden hour as the sun begins to fall down. And there's just kind of like this unsettling air in the room. And as in this dead quiet, you guys are kind of traversing the room, suddenly that nerd meter begins peaking very loudly, Dr. Katz. You guys are, I will say, between all of the kind of covered furnishings and boxes, you are about 20 feet from this table holding the dollhouse. What do all of you do?
Yep. The twins pull out cameras.
What can we see from this distance of what's in the dollhouse?
Ooh, Jane can zoom in and show you on the camera.
That would be delightful.
Jamie is not taking pictures of the dollhouse, for the record. Jamie is taking pictures of the edges, the attic, the peripheries, and anywhere that the Rangers are not looking.
Okay. So I will say this. Captain O'Donnell is waiting for your order. So my question is, as you guys are taking photographs, what have you guys asked the Rangers to do?
I mean, I feel like Cat's pointing this thing, and it's beeping like crazy.
Geiger countering over there.
Yeah. Is absolutely going to tell the Rangers, do not approach that object.
And they each kind of like fall back and mount their rifles on their kind of into the butt, into the shoulders, and take overwatch on this object with a knee kind of for stability of their accuracy of their shot.
Do we have some fire break? Do we have some portable fire breaks or something? We got to set up a containment perimeter here.
Okay.
Always with the logistics.
So as far as you guys know, you basically, what you could do is wait for backup, or You can kind of like call it into the Federal Bureau of Control, or you can kind of like take action now. What do you guys want to do?
What can we see? Like, so can we see inside the dollhouse at all, or does it close and like you can't see what's in it?
Jane, as you zoom in your digital camera, do you have any points left to spend in photography?
I do.
Okay.
I have 1 point in photography, and I will spend it.
Okay. As you are looking through the camera viewfinder, there is, I think, a moment where you see kind of like this very strange silhouette in the 3rd floor window of the Victorian dollhouse. And it seems to be a small human figure. Jamie, while you are taking photographs of the surroundings, do you have any points that you would like to spend?
Yeah. Jamie's camera is funky, and I have a single point of photography I would also like to spend.
Okay. So I will say this, is that as you are kind of taking photographs, there is something about the covered furnishings that catches your eye, as this kind of really strange draft kind of flies through the attic. And you see that one of the furnishings that is closer to the dollhouse, as the wind blows, it seems to have a very kind of almost person-like shape to it.
Jamie's gonna lean in to Jane. I don't think that over there is what it's pretending to be. Be careful.
If Jane is just going to reach towards Katz and turn the nerd in the direction of the figure.
What do you? Can I see this?
It's in your hands. I'm turning you with
As
No,
you
I mean, like, as Jane turns me, can I see the figure?
if you start saying anything, Jamie just reaches a hand around and covers your mouth.
Yeah.
and Jane's buff, remember? So you're kind of being manhandled a little bit.
Yeah, on either side, the Barnetts are taking practical measures, and basically, they kind of point you, and you see this kind of silhouette.
If you want me to scream something, you can ask me. Jesus Christ!
You see, and that is when you see the sheet kind of covering the silhouette almost take the shape of a human form.
I think Vivian will remark as she gazes at the upper window of this dollhouse where there was a figure, or where she believes that she saw a figure, and she says, this is what you miss when you focus completely on the quantitative, because dollhouses are stages for storytelling, aren't they? I think if that little girl is in there, maybe we have to go in. Maybe we need to be dolls.
Jane's eyes are the size of saucers.
And I think at that point, Captain O'Donnell says, look, I don't care who you report to. I don't care if Director Trench himself said that you need to become dolls in order to travel into a dollhouse. I am not letting you advance on this thing and turn yourself into a doll to go into there, however that may work. That is not standard operating procedure.
Jamie is going to give the NATO standard hand signal for quiet, and then the standard hand signal for hostile.
And yeah, again, O'Donnell trains the gun exactly where you point it.
And then it's going to point.
And then O'Donnell looks back at all of you and says, "Warning shot."
What if it's a kid?
Warning shot.
How can you shoot something you can't see?
And he is signaling in accordance with Jamie's gesture that he is pointing towards the human-shaped silhouette to the right of the dollhouse.
Jamie's gonna chuck the Capri Sun that's now empty at the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. You do that.
What the fuck, kid?
It bounces off the figure. And then very slowly, you see a hand raise. And then another hand raise. And on the other side of the dollhouse, another figure its hands also begin to move. And they begin to advance forward on your position.
This is some Doctor Who shit.
The sheets fall off, and you see, lovingly rendered in porcelain, a masculine figure wearing a very comfortable set of clothing, a pullover and a set of khakis with a smart belt and slippers. On the other side, you see a more feminine figure with porcelain, both of them with porcelain hair that seems to be painted, as well as kind of painted features on. You see wearing a kind of a nice, kind of very comfortable blouse and shawl, along with a set of jeans and, once again, comfy slippers. And they begin moving closer and closer to you, at which point Captain O'Donnell raises his gun and fires. And that is where we are going to end tonight's session of the Dollhouse, a control flight.
Jane is not okay.
So guys, thanks so much for sticking it out to the end with us here. We are going to be returning next week for the next part of our GUMSHOE actual play set in the Control RPG, the Control universe converted for RPGs. I have been your GM, Zach, otherwise known as Great Zamino. And before we end tonight, I want to make sure that we give time for all of our players' plugs and shout outs. So in the same order around, David, do you have any plugs or shout outs for tonight?
Yeah, I got a couple. I've been David. You can check out games that I design over at dbb-8.itch.io, including games played on this very channel. I have finally released In the Dark, the Blades in the Dark, Forged in the Dark hack that we have been playing across a number of flights here on Flights of Fandom. And it is a very nice lightweight system for playing a bunch of highly skilled individuals living out there on the edges of law and society. And you can see some past flights where we've made great use of that. And you can now download the game yourself. It is pay what you wish. So again, head on over to dbb-8.itch.io to snap up a copy.
Is so good, y'all.
Thank you. And if you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Instagram and less so on Twitter at DBrunel-Brutman. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Moving down the line, Marissa, do you have any plugs or shout outs for us this week?
Yeah, I have been Marissa, and you can find me most places on the internet under the username Critical Kitten with a variety of punctuation, be it on Twitter or Instagram or other places. I will give a shout out to some lovely folks who are on this stream as well. Zach and Hopper and I are part of an every other Sunday Invisible Sun game, The Hole in the World, here on Manapot Studios, which airs at 4:30 EST every other Sunday. And our next game will be this upcoming Sunday. So if you like the world of surreality and strangeness and the taste of that you're getting here, come join our persistent campaign in Invisible Sun and see what our crazy Vizsla get up to. Would also like to plug the lovely folks at Story Brewers Roleplaying who bring us Good Society. For those of you who have followed the channel for a while, you know I like to run Good Society here. They are currently doing a Kickstarter for their new RPG called Fight with Spirit, which is a tabletop RPG focused on telling sports stories. So it's about a sports team growing up together and fighting for their passion. You hone your skills and face down rivals and strive to take your team to the national championships. It can be any sport that you wish. Some of the unlockables are to actually be able to play with individual sports as well as asynchronous sports and not just team sports. But they're so close to funding their goal. So if you like telling amazing stories, and focusing on narrative over mechanics, go check out Fight with Spirit. It's a really rich, cool game, and we want to see it get made.
Awesome. Moving over to the other side of the overlay, Hopper, plugs, shout outs.
Oh shit, that's me. I have been, and sorry, will continue to be Hopper. I can be found on and around the interwebs at Fail Deadly. That is with a 3 instead of an E, because as always, I am your resident dumpster fire. If you want other content, I keep very rarely, but it's usually pretty fucking good. You can follow me at The Legend Tree, where I tend to do I lean towards fantasy related RPG stuff, but some of it's genre non-specific, and I try to be system agnostic as well. And as for plugs and shout outs, you can catch me this Sunday over with these two fine upstanding I meant to say critters, and then I said creatures, and I ended up with creators. So y'all creators now.
We creators.
You creators. And over on The Hole in the World, come by. It's fucking wild. But I'd like to shout out another friend of the show, and along with David, one of our illustrious game designers, friend of the show, Jeff Stormer, who any award-winning New Jersey Web Fest winning best DM in a podcast and game designer of Anyone Can Wear the Mask. Go check his shit out. It's fucking amazing. I don't know, be gay, do crime.
And finally, Puja, shout outs and plugs this week.
Hey everybody, I'm Puja. You can find me on Twitter at Puja and at Pujabaraki on Instagram and in Twitch chats. When I'm not here this month on Tuesdays, you can find me over on the Wandering DM channel on Thursdays, where we play Sentinels of the Multiverse, a comic book building RPG where every episode or session is a comic book issue, and the audience gets to participate with trading cards and change the action life. And then on Sundays, you can see me over on Praxagora Desmophoria's channel, where we play Romance of the Blue Rose, a Blue Rose game set in the Age system by Green Ronin. And that one does definitely get along the lines of the Be Gay Do Crime, because a bunch of incels called it the gay RPG. And we have tried ever since to live up to that name. But there is more stuff coming. I think in October, in October, more announcements will be on my Twitter, and the links to all of my streams will be in my Twitter bio. As for shout outs, I think everyone's kind of covered all the good stuff. So go support creators, go support your friends, pay people for their art, even if they are especially if they are your friends. And be gay, do crime.
There we go. I love it. So for my own shout outs, we got a bunch of really cool things. This week, we are going to have a nice compliment for Liza's Manapot Studios Manapot Happy Hour. So come join and watch as they drink and play D&D. It's going to be a lot of fun. Liza always does the best one-shots, and I'm not just biased or anything. That would be ridiculous. But it's going to be a fun time. Check it out. In addition, I should say we also have a Tales from the Packed World podcast now. So everybody should check that out. I know that Mark has gone ahead and Mark and Krifu, I believe, are working on it together. They have just debuted episode 9. It's doing really well. They're finishing up their first season, and they're going to figure out what's going to happen at the end of the Paizo accountability campaign, whether or not they want to continue. But in the meantime, don't shortchange yourself. Listen to their stories because they are fantastic GMs and players both. So it would really behoove you to listen. In addition, I want to go ahead and say thank you to Jade Vala, as well as our regular viewers. Abbott Costello is a new one. Atten, Arabs, Elysian, Katina, and of course, Legendary Action Official. Thanks for joining us, as well as Angel Citadel, Josh, earlier. Speaking of Angel Citadel, they are our kind of sister stream. They also are playing Invisible Sun on the Sundays where we don't. So every week, every Sunday is Invisible Sunday. So check that out. One last couple of shout outs in the podcast area. One, if you haven't been listening to Encounter Party, a D&D actual play podcast set in the world of Magic the Gathering's Ravnica, you should, because they're fantastic and they're all professional actors and they really know what they're doing, and it's really compelling and it's awesome. So go check that out. In addition, plug of a New Jersey WebFest winner that I really love. A podcast called The Sword of Symphonies is in its second season. It's episode 27. They recently won a couple of NJ WebFest awards. I think you should check them out. And that is non-sponsored, nothing. I just really liked their delivery and their stuff. If you want to learn more, go check out peachgardengames.com. And as always, stay tuned for the rest of the stuff that we get. Stay tuned for next week when we continue and enter into this creepy fright of fandom for episode 2. And in the meantime, be excellent to each other. Be gay, do crime, fuck Nazis, and have a great week. See you later, guys.